We are getting the first transcripts of the opening statements in this trial being delivered by the prosecution. I want to bring in now Court TV crime and justice reporter Julia Janae, who's standing by to update us on the first things we are learning coming out of the courtroom. Julia.
Julie, this prosecution is definitely showing these jurors a heart-wrenching story about the alleged victims in this case. They're giving them a roadmap of these three incidents that are going to be the highlight of their case: the 1993 incident, 2006 rather, and 2013, showing them this pattern which will support their charges of predatory sexual assault, the 2 counts that Harvey Weinstein is facing. We heard that the Assistant District Attorney, Megan Hayes, is telling them that these women, they're introducing them and putting their photos up for them to look at while they're explaining. The first one, Annabella Sciorra, explaining who she is, her background, and really giving them a personal look at their first encounter with Harvey Weinstein. And it's just almost heart-wrenching to see once you get through the story that they tell these jurors. It's very detailed. In this transcript, it's several pages long, but they talk about, this prosecutor is talking about how these women internalized their trauma for years. And in Sciorra's case, it was decades before she could face what had happened to her, the terror that she felt after Harvey Weinstein showed up at her apartment, pushed past her after she was just an aspiring actress at the time, and it did this incident, this rape inside the apartment, and also telling these jurors that not too long later, he came back, showed up at her dressing room, and even though she was able to escape that incident, that this was still something that she has always lived with and now is telling her story. Something that is very likely pulling these jurors in, Julie.
Oh, most definitely, Julia. Sometimes we think we know what may come out during a case and we have no idea. And I think for many, we've heard these alleged narratives of business meetings or meetings in hotels or places where there was something planned between these various accusers and Harvey Weinstein, and then from that point, the alleged assaultive behavior occurred. But with Annabella Sciorra, what really struck me, and I think for many watching this trial closely, this was a bit of a shock, that the allegation is what you said, that this rape occurred in her home. That is what's being alleged by the state. And you know this, Julia, being a lawyer, the home is sacrosanct. And so I'm wondering, and we're going to get that full report from Chanley coming up, how these jurors were looking, hearing that, the details of that. And just to kind of go back over, after this alleged incident occurred, after the alleged rape happened, it's my understanding then you mentioned there was an attempt by him again, this one in a hotel room. Is that right?
It appears that this was on the set of another film that she was acting for. She thought her makeup people were at her door. And this was years later, after that incident that she had tried to put behind her, that she opened the door thinking this was people coming in to help her. And yet what she saw outside that door was Harvey Weinstein holding a bottle rather, of either lotion or baby oil, and standing there with the intention of coming in, that she was able to get away, that she pushed the call buttons that were by the bed in the room that she was in, and she was ultimately able to avoid any encounter with him. But this only bolstering what the prosecution is going to be showing, this pattern, and this pattern of a predatory nature that they want these jurors to associate with Harvey Weinstein.
Most definitely, Julia. Something else that jumped out at me just reviewing this transcript was that as part of this story, the prosecutor told, she said that prior to the alleged rape, Harvey Weinstein provided Annabella Sciorra with some Valium. And we've been doing a lot of comparing and contrasting this case with Bill Cosby's case. And at the heart of those allegations and what the other prior bad acts witnesses testified to was that there was a pattern of giving pills to the women prior to the alleged assaults. So that jumped out at me as something. And can you elaborate a little more? I know you've had a chance to really review this transcript carefully as to what was said and how she explained that was part of the story and perhaps the grooming process.
She called them tests in her opening statement. and said that after the first encounter or the first discussions between Annabella Sciorra and the defendant, that he asked her to push forward and do this movie that they had been talking about, that she was exhausted from some back-to-back projects that she had already been working on, really wasn't motivated to do this film, but he used his persona and was able to convince her that, yes, she needed to do this. And the prosecutor told these jurors that this was the first test that he had for her that she passed, because it showed that he was able to push his will over hers. That second test that was highlighted was sending that care package with movies, popcorn, and that bottle of Valium. And the fact that she took that to help her sleep, she seemingly confirmed to him that she was going to be taking these pills that he had given her to help her sleep. And then the third test would be him arriving at her apartment when she was about to go to sleep. Whether or not that was him knowing that she was taking these pills at night or not, but very descriptive by Assistant District Attorney Megan Haas, saying that it was this 110-pound woman in the room and that this 300-pound, 6-foot man pushed past her and was able to force his will on her and eventually raping her. So very detailed and emotional presentation of these facts, it seems, in reading it, by this prosecutor, Julie.
Most definitely, Julia. I know that you're going to continue receiving what is coming out of that courtroom and updating us as it comes in. Appreciate all of your reporting. Julia Janae, Court TV crime and justice reporter. I want to bring in now Court TV lead anchor Vinnie Politan, who's standing by live in our Manhattan studio. Vinnie, you've been a prosecuting attorney. You know the home is sacrosanct, as we say. These allegations are stunning to me. What is being alleged in the rape of Annabella Sciorra, that it happened in her home, is what really jumped out at me. Tell me your thoughts, please.
Absolutely. This is not like a mistake, like, oh, maybe it was consensual, maybe it wasn't. There's something completely different in these allegations described in the opening statement today. The way Harvey Weinstein comes across as the way the prosecutor describes his actions and what he does, he is a creepy, raping stalker. That's what they are describing inside that courtroom. This is a man who drops her off, she goes inside, she's done for the night, and then goes to the door, pushes his way through, uses all 300 pounds of his body to force his way into that home to attack Annabella Sciorra. And on top of all of that, you talk about the stalking behavior afterwards, acting like nothing happened, sending cars to pick her up when she never was invited to anything. She didn't want to be with this guy. And then that description of what happened at the Cannes Film Festival was like the topper of it all. This is where it gets into Harvey Weinstein, the stalker, where, hey, she's promoting a movie that she's in out in Cannes, and her hotel room. Oh my goodness, what a coincidence. Harvey Weinstein gets a room right next to hers. We know Harvey Weinstein, they're going to argue, is controlling where these hotel rooms are, and then shows up at her door uninvited with a bottle of baby oil. Are you kidding me? This is beyond anything. This is not a misunderstanding, what was described in that opening statement. Something completely different, Julie.
Oh, you're absolutely right, Vinnie. I'm so glad you used the word stalking, because when I was thinking about that and reading this transcript, and the prosecutor, I believe, used the word that he appeared to Annabella to be perhaps casing her apartment. She didn't expect him to show up at the door. She's in her nightgown at the time as they're setting out these facts. And I kept thinking, why isn't there a stalking charge on this indictment as well? There certainly could have been, based on what we're hearing in these allegations as set forth by the state here.
Yeah, and you know, she's going to be cross-examined, but, you know, what's the alternative view of what happened here, right? I mean, it seems that Harvey Weinstein may have to get up on that witness stand to explain what happened and why he's there with the baby oil and why he's inside their room and to completely deny it, because this through cross-examination cannot come down to some sort of a misunderstanding. That's not even close. It's not a business meeting. They're not talking about a script. There's nothing like that. It's not even like a business dinner. She was at an event, was getting dropped off by his driver. He was in there, and he had done it before, dropped her off. She was done. The door was closed. It was locked. She got into her nightgown. She was done for the night. That was it. And then he comes to the door, forces his way in. Completely different picture than anything else that we've been talking about in the build-up to this trial. Because in the build-up to the trial, we're talking about, oh, this is the way things are in Hollywood. That's the way you do it. These actresses, they just want the next part. You know, it's a quid pro quo. Everybody knows what you're supposed to do. That's not what was described in this opening statement relative to the allegations of Annabella Sciorra.
Oh, you're absolutely right, Vinny. And then, and I know this was stunning to you, and then after all of this took place in Manhattan, as alleged by the prosecution, then at the Cannes Film Festival, he comes back to her, allegedly, tries to go back to her hotel room. For what purpose, who knows? But then it's like, okay, wait a minute, all this allegedly occurs, and then he returns? I mean, talk about something bold and brazen and perhaps needing an explanation in this trial. So to your point, maybe he will get up on the stand.
Because the picture that's painted by the way the prosecutor is describing this is a guy who is powerful, in charge, and he's going to do whatever he wants. You're in my movies, I own you. I mean, that's what you're hearing between the lines in this opening statement.
Right. Oh, most definitely, Vinny. Most definitely. I can't wait for more transcripts. We are reporting everything we are receiving here and seeing this. And I think that what was really stunning is that when many people look at this case because of, we've heard all about the swirl of media reporting and think they may know the narrative and think they may know, okay, this is maybe how it played out because we've heard about allegations of these business meetings and these planned meetings that were done at hotel rooms or wherever. But I mean, to think, when we think about our biggest fears, biggest nightmares, you're in your own home where you should feel safer than any place in the world. Getting ready to go to bed, it's dark outside, you're in your nightgown. I mean, think of the vulnerability, how vulnerable one would feel to be in the shoes of Annabella Sciorra. And if these facts are true, it is jolting what occurred.
It really is. This is it's forcible rape is what she's describing, being pinned down and what he did and how he did it, when he did it, all the circumstances surrounding it. And it's a level of broken trust as well because, okay, he's a producer, she's an actor, so yeah, they're going to work together. They work together on projects, had known each other through the years, and she had done work in movies that he produced. So, it's a work environment, but it was not at the office. This is not at a meeting, nothing like that at all, the way it was described by the prosecutor.
No, not at all. Vinny, so great to have your thoughts and expertise. Looking forward to chatting with you a little later in the show. Have to take a break right now. And when we come back, we're going to keep bringing our live coverage to you of the Harvey Weinstein rape trial. Court TV is the only place where you're going to get gavel-to-gavel coverage. We're back right after this.